pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome all of our friends and neighbors and colleagues to tonight's regularly scheduled June 3rd, 2019 council meeting. As you come in, the door to my right there'll be a sign-in sheet on the desk. Please sign your name. May I please have a roll call vote? City Clerk French. Price.
Councilperson Bell. Briner.
Here.
Morrissey.
Here.
Sharp.
Here.
Stuchel.
Here.
Zeiser.
Here.
And Mayor Stockford.
Here.
All right, we have 6-1 absent.
Sorry, City Clerk Price. We'll move into approval of agenda items. Does any member of council or the city manager have any changes they'd like to make to the agenda? Oh, yes, Councilman Bell, I haven't heard from him, so we don't need a motion to excuse his absence.
Yes, come on.
There's Councilman Bell.
Try to hold them on.
Welcome, Councilman Bell.
Apologies.
We just moved into approval of agenda. Does anyone on council or the city manager have any changes they'd like to make to the agenda? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Briner to approve the agenda. May I please have a roll call vote, Katie?
Councilperson Briner.
Yes.
Morrissey.
Yes.
Sharp.
Yes.
Stuchel.
Yes.
Zeiser.
Yes.
Mayor Stockford.
Yes.
And Councilperson Bell.
Yes.
All approved, 7-0.
Thank you, Katie. We will move into public comment on agenda items only. During this time, the podium will be open. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. Please limit your trips to 1 to the podium. Please understand that as per our council rules, we won't answer any questions during this period. And also, I will say it again, if you've got public comment to make, this is on agenda items only. So please make sure that your comments have some sort of direct tie to the items on the agenda. The podium's now open.
Ted Jansen, 104 Hillsdale Street, in reference to the letter to council about the plannings. I'll just read it for those who haven't seen it. I attended the City Planning Commission meeting on May 21st and listened to their concerns over the plannings in the terrace. And they are kicking the can down the road even after being advised that the council was desiring action on their part to create a city code to cover such plannings. There was misleading information provided to the City Planning Commission that the council was actually desiring that this proposal would come under the jurisdiction of the Department of Public Services, but were influenced by Mayor Stockford to send it to the Planning Commission. Mr. Hamilstead stated that his department does not have the manpower to monitor compliance and was not interested in endorsing such an ordinance. I propose the following conditions be included in a new city code that would allow the plantings in the terrace. Where the terrace is level, all plantings may not be located closer than 24 inches from the curb in order to allow individuals to exit and enter a vehicle. Where the terraces are sloped at least 30 degrees, all plantings must be at least 12 inches from the curb. If the terrace fronts no parking on this side of the street, the setback would only be 12 inches from the curb. All plantings must be at least 12 inches away from the edge of the sidewalk so that it would not interfere with pedestrian traffic. Plantings cannot exceed 36 inches in height when mature. Trees and bushes are not allowed. Okay. The property owner who places plants in the terrace will hold harmless this Hillsdale Board of Public Utilities and all other agencies, organizations, or corporations that will or have or will place underground utilities or services from any damage done to said plants in the course of their underground work in the terrace. Upon notice from the city, all weeds and plants that are in disarray must be removed within 7 days. Failure to do so will result in second notice to comply. If not in compliance within 7 days of notice, the city reserves the right to remove and charge the property owner for services rendered. The property owner will obtain a planting permit prior to placing any plant in the terrace and shall pay a $25 fee for said permit. Included in the permit will be the height restrictions, placement requirements of plants, prohibition of bushes and trees, I have misspelling there, and acknowledgement of the aforementioned hold harmless conditions. The code enforcement department would provide enforcement of this city code. Many of your constituents would appreciate if you take a positive action on this request as soon as possible. Thank you and God bless. Ted Jansen. You have before you a list of at least 33 property owners who are technically in violation of the city ordinance that have flowers in their parkways. Now that is not a non-inclusive list. And there seems to be, there's statements made, well, that's city property, you can't allow anybody to have anything on city property. That seems to be a disconnect or discrepancy. When you go down West Street at College, and the condo development there's about 10 cubic yards of concrete going from the front door to the curb, covering city property. There's also iron fence around the trees, which is in violation of the city ordinance. You also find huge lilac bushes on Fayette at Hillsdale Street. That's on city property, but apparently that's okay. This proposal is best served as a code by code enforcement, since the code enforcement has somebody to enforce the code. As Mr. Hamill said, he doesn't have the people to enforce a violation of city ordinance, nor does he have the desire. So I'm just asking this council to take into consideration these property owners and create a city code, since the planning commission kicked the can down the road, to enable the people to have their plannings under these guidelines. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ted. Any more public comment?
Jack McLean, 1445 South Bun. I brought up about the Open Meeting Act and the request that was being made that you had to identify yourself. And I see that went to a committee, and it also went to the attorney. And I think I could have saved a lot of money for the city, and I think it was a big waste of money that all you had to say was, please state your name. But if you want to be a dictator and throw your power around, then I guess you can say you must say it. But if you just say the word please, I think it eliminated that Public Meeting Act statement altogether, which I think would have been the easiest way to do it and a heck of a lot cheaper. The other thing I see in that committee, they are looking at absences where you don't have to have an excused absence. I know some of the boards or some of the committees, if you're not there, you can be voted out. I don't know if that goes with the council or not. If you do not have an excused absence, you can literally be voted off. So I guess it depends on where you're at or whatever, if you're part of the group or not. As far as, I've never heard of anybody being voted off. I guess it's part of the good old boys committee or whatever, I guess. So the other question I had was, and I see there's been a lot of talking about tall grass reminders, and it talks about lawns. And I've never really found the definition for lawn any place. Because I look at properties, say, because it says if you own the property, you have to keep the grass cut. But then you look up on Bar Street and Mechanic, and all that property out there by the apartments, I mean, I don't recall that ever being mowed. Somebody owns it, the grass is definitely bigger than 10 inches. And another piece of property I noticed is like 30 Montgomery, down there where it's all woods and trees and stuff growing up, that I've never seen that mowed either. So I don't know if that's considered lawn or not. My other comment, and this is going back to the Public Meeting Act, I know to be on the Planning Commission, you have to finish within a year a training program. And I would think that would be great for council members so they knew what the laws of the Open Meeting Act were, or at least had a refresher course on what's going on so that they would know the violations and not just try to push them off on the people of the city by ignoring the truth, I guess. So, thank you very much.
Thanks, Jack. Any more public comment on agenda items?
Penny Swan, Ward 4. First of all, given the air's kicking on, please make sure the mic's down and you're speaking into them, because when the air's on back here, we can't hear you. The other thing I wanted to speak on is the plantings in the terrace. I'm all for that. I've seen some that look absolutely beautiful, and they have to maintain though and keep it mowed and all of that, so I think people should be able to put their stamp on that piece of property. Thank you.
Thanks, Penny. Any more public comment on agenda items? Seeing none, we will close the podium. I guess quickly in regards to Mr. McLean's comments, I don't think I've ever said anything but please state your name and address when people take the podium. So, as far as the unexcused absences go, everybody that's sitting at this table is elected by constituents. So it would be pretty bold for us to try and eliminate one of our own members without first going to the residents of that ward, speaking of dictatorships. And we'll trust that the residents of Hillsdale will hold us accountable for our actions. So we'll move on to the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we've got approval of bills, city claims of May 16th, 2019, BPU claims of May 16th, payroll of May 30th. We've got our city council minutes of May 20th. We've got, this is exciting, our All-American celebration, Great American Parade's happening again this year. Stocks Park use agreement for somebody that would like to have a wedding there. Transit procurement policy, and the district court is holding a job fair again this year. Is there any discussion on any items on the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Sharp to approve the consent agenda. May I please have a roll call vote? City Clerk Price?
Councilperson Morrissey?
Yes.
Sharp?
Yes.
Stuchel?
Yes.
Sizer?
Yes.
Mayor Stockford?
Yes.
Councilperson Bell?
Yes.
And Briner?
Yes.
7-0 approved.
Thank you, Katie. We will move on to communications petitions. Item A is BPU's having their movies in the park again, which is in Mrs. Stocks Park. This year they'll be showing Ralph Breaks the Internet, The Incredibles 2, and the Lego Movie 2. So it says, please feel free to bring chairs and blankets to sit on, and we thank BPU very much for that public service. It's a lovely thing. Second item, item B, is a letter from Comcast, changes to their Premier package. Item C is a tall grass reminder from the city, just reminding our residents that our current code says that property owners are responsible for maintaining their lawns, and grass and weeds should not exceed a maximum height of 10 inches. And then item D is the right-of-way planning letter that Mr. Jansen graciously read for us earlier, so we won't read that again. Any discussion on any items on communications petitions, gentlemen? Seeing none, there's no introduction, adoption of ordinances, public hearing, so we'll move to unfinished business. 2325 North Broad Street demolition. Alan.
So as most of you can have seen, the building is all but gone. We had a couple of glitches during the process. One was the discovery that the wall between Mr. Dixon's office and 23 and 25 were indeed a party wall, even though we had two structural engineers tell us that it probably was not. So there will be some additional work on Mr. Dixon's office to weatherproof that wall and finish sealing the roof along there. But their intent is to be completed by the end of this week. They will be finishing the trucking out of the debris and the trucking in of the fill, and then they'll compact it, dress it with 6 inches of topsoil, and seed it. And then we will move on to the next step and probably look at doing an RFP to see if we can get a developer to come in and redevelop the site. That's all still speculative at this point.
Any questions for Alan? Councilman Zeiser.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Beaker, will the additional work on the shared wall, or the formerly shared wall, bring us over budget?
Over budget of
What we allotted for the demolition?
that's still to be determined.
Okay.
Any more questions for Alan? Thank you, Alan. Appreciate it. Any discussion, guys? Seeing none, we will move on to item B, ICE grant verbal update. Jake? And Brian, if you want to come up or not.
Probably not necessary. Good evening.
Okay.
First off, I think everybody's been seeing Brian's guys out there working hard. I'd like to thank them. They've been really keeping their nose to the grindstone the last month or so. And so first things, Garden Mead Vine, Spring, and the north end of Ripon is scheduled. It's 99% completion for grading. It is scheduled for base course asphalt Thursday. We are anticipating some rain Wednesday, and our backup base course asphalt day will be Friday if we get too much moisture on Wednesday. So that's all very good news on that program. We expect the concrete contractors back in town tomorrow. They will be finishing up drive approaches and sidewalks on the north end of Ripon and Spring. And we anticipate the concrete road cap probably going on Wednesday. Then they can run that asphalt right up to that cap. That's where we stand right now. As soon as that grading's done, Brian anticipates moving his crew to the south end of Ripon. Start grading that, prepping that out for concrete at the south end. The middle section is still a little bit timing-wise. We're waiting on a DEQ permit and an MEDC permit authorizations in that middle piece. We anticipate the DEQ permit arriving approved tomorrow. And the MEDC, I don't know if David, if you have any idea on that one. I really don't.
Not at this time.
Sooner rather than later, hopefully, so we can get that middle piece put back together. But as of right now, Brian and his guys have plenty of work to keep them cranking right along, so that's not going to delay us at this time.
Very good. Any questions or comments for Jake? Councilman Bell?
Can we get our state senator or state representative on the MEDC thing to make sure it doesn't hold us up when Brian's done with that work?
I don't know that that's necessary yet.
Okay.
We're working our channels inside. I think, Mr. Mackey, you've established a pretty good relationship at MEDC now, I believe.
Yes, I don't think that's going to be necessary. I'll call our contact tomorrow, and he's actually the person who would approve it.
He could give you a timetable, maybe.
Yes.
Okay. Sounded a little waffly, and government agencies.
Well, I think it will help when we let them know that DEQ's done their part.
Okay.
That we're kind of waiting on them, so they know time is of the essence on this to keep this project rolling, so we can get it completed.
Thanks, Jake.
Any more questions for Jake? Thanks, Jake.
Thanks.
Good job out there the last few weeks, guys. Progress is it's exciting to see. So we will move into old business. Item A, settlement agreement and mutual release for King v. Mackey et al. Excuse me, let me catch up on the agenda here. Tom, you want to take this?
Sure.
Okay.
As you can read we've reached a settlement as between all of the parties with Mr. King on his lawsuit that's currently pending in federal court in the Western District of Michigan. The city's portion of the settlement amount will be $3,750, which was prompted by the request from the city's previous insurer at the airport, Chubb Insurance, who authorized us to pursue a settlement within a certain range, and that dollar amount is within that range. And they will be paying the settlement amount. In exchange, there's no admission of liability on anyone's part. The lawsuit will be dismissed in its entirety with prejudice, which means you can never bring the claims again. There's also a release of claims, if you'll see, that releases any claims that Mr. King might have had, could have raised, did raise with respect to any of the matters that were addressed in the lawsuit. The only reason that the council has to approve the settlement agreement is because Mr. King sued the individual defendants both in their individual capacities and in their official capacities. And I think, as we've discussed here before in the context of other things, a suit against an individual who is an employee of a governmental entity is under Title 42, Section 1983 of the U.S. Code, is considered to be a suit against the governmental entity when they sue them in their official capacity. So the only reason the city is part of it is so the city gets the benefit of the release of claims, and that's why the city has to approve it. In addition, there was one other provision that was requested by Mr. King, which was that the city repeat a previous apology with respect to the initial circumstance that caused him to file this suit in the first place, which relates to a report that he was trespassing at the airport. So as part of that, it is attached as an exhibit to the agreement, and the city would reiterate that apology that was previously made, I think, by Mayor Sessions way back whenever the incident occurred, as part of the settlement agreement, and would read that in open meeting, which I presume, assuming that the agreement is approved, we'll do that tonight so we get it out of the way and can get this matter behind both the city and the individual defendants.
Thank you, Tom. Any questions for Tom? Councilman Morrissey?
On page 2, at the bottom, second line up from the bottom, there might be a typo. It says incurred by any of them as a result.
That would be, we probably won't worry about that too much,
Okay.
because it
We don't
won't
have to
impact
amend
anyone's reading, no. And it's my understanding Mr. King has already signed this agreement.
Okay.
So to the extent that it's a minor typographical error that won't impact how anyone reads the provision, I think we'll
Thank you.
probably leave that alone, but I might point that out and see if we can cross it out and get everybody to initial
Thank
it.
you.
Yep.
Any more discussion, questions for Tom? I'd entertain a motion to approve the settlement.
So moved. Oh, discussion, or did you ask?
A motion to
Approve the settlement.
approve the settlement.
I'll second it.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Stuchel, seconded by Councilman Bell, to approve the settlement and authorize the signatures of myself and the rest of the people named. May I please have a roll call vote?
Councilperson Sharp,
Yes.
Stuchel,
Yes.
Zizer,
Yes.
Mayor Stockford,
Yes.
Councilperson Bell,
Yes.
Briner,
Yes.
and Councilperson Morrissey.
Yes.
7-0 approves.
Thank you, Katie. Now I would please ask our,
I'll read it.
okay, I guess Mr. Mackey will read the short paragraph here that needs to be read.
Thank you, Mayor. The Exhibit A paragraph reads as follows. The Hillsdale Municipal Airport is a public facility. As a pilot, Mr. Robert King, or Jeffrey King, and his family are welcome to use the airport. and any services available to other pilots and aircraft. We appreciate your past service to the airport and apologize that you were identified as the individual trespassing in restricted areas of the Hillsdale Municipal Airport.
Thank you, Mr. Mackey. We will move on to item B in old business, right-of-way planting ordinance. Mr. Ted Jansen submitted a letter at the May 20th, 2019 council meeting. The letter requested that right-of-way plantings be allowed with guidelines. Council referred the matter to the City Planning Commission. The Planning Commission discussed this matter at length during their May 21st, 2019 regular meeting. At this time, the Planning Commission respectfully returns the matter to council. The reasons for the return are as follows. 1, the oversight of the right-of-way is under council and enforced by the street department. Those ordinances are in Chapter 30 attached. Planning Commission oversees Chapter 26 signs and Chapter 36 zoning. Currently, right-of-way plantings are allowed specifically by ordinance in Chapter 14. Environment Article 4 - municipal trees, which is attached. Attached is the city's current public tree planting program guidelines, pre-approved nursery specification and conditions, and recommended tree species to plant lists. And the recommendation is it is the recommendation of the City Planning Commission and the zoning administrator that council review the current ordinances allowing right-of-way plantings and amend them as necessary. Any discussion?
Take this one.
Councilman Bell.
This came up not only because Mr. Jansen's plannings and what happened there, but also because there were a constituent, and there is a constituent in my ward who was told to remove some trees that he had planted in the right of way. And so my general thought as we look at this, and maybe we can send it to a committee to look at it, because that seems more like committee work, but is to come to some sort of compromise where we recognize people who are trying to make the city look more beautiful, and as long as they're not on the banned list or, it hurting somebody's safety or something like that, we could let them do it. And as we see here, there's quite a few people who already have things in their terrace. Just driving around the last few days, I've noticed more, because this has been coming up, of flowers and bushes and small things that people have put in their terraces, and according to our code, those are all against the law. So we have the power to change the law, and I think it would serve the city to focus more on blight and less on people trying to do something to beautify the city. So that would be my hope and recommendation, if we do send it to a committee, that we would have that spirit in trying to work with something that would work for both those who need to enforce it and those who are trying to beautify the city.
Thank you, Councilman Bell. Councilman Sharp?
The terrace in question, is that a tree it was planted there, or is that a bush?
Three trees, yeah.
As the tree on the list as not being allowed to be planted on the terrace?
It's not on the not allowed list, but apparently there's an approved list too, which I found out today. I don't know why we'd have a disallowed and an approved list, because what happens to all the trees in the middle that aren't on those lists? But anyway.
I think Mr. Mackey could probably explain that
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, there isn't a disapproved list, it's just an approved list.
There's a list. Tecalpa is one of them, of the trees that we can't have in the city.
Yes.
It's about 13 trees, but anyway, it wasn't on the banned list, but I guess it wasn't on the approved list either, so.
Well, the house that's in question, I went up there and looked at it, and to me, honestly, the tree's not threatening anything. There's not a driveway there, if I'm looking at the right house.
Yeah.
There's not no driveway approach where you're coming out where that tree could block your view. It's one of those, it's kind of the thing we would wish people would just check before they do something, just to check it. If it's okay, then yeah, sure, not a problem. Because we do want to beautify the city. We want to keep our lawns mowed. We want to do all that stuff, but we want to make sure we follow the rules, and we have to make sure the rules are followed to the letter of the law. Sometimes if we make exceptions, then next thing you know, everybody's going to look for exceptions. And I do have one question, though, on this list here that Mr. Jansen did bring up. Westwood at Sharp. Could you please explain what that is?
Oh, that was last year, so I thing was,
I just got.
address. I'm sorry. I did this last year. I didn't have the address for the building, so it was. I think it was on Westwood at Sharp Street.
Westwood and Sharp Street do
Okay.
not even come close to
Okay,
each
so
other.
then it was a missed statement on the address.
It just got my attention when I'm looking at,
Okay.
because I live on Westwood, and I know Sharp Street's to the north of me, and it's
Whatever.
not even close.
Could have either been Norwood or Ripon.
Okay. Thank you.
City manager.
Mayor, if I may, thank you. I would say that we're not opposed to the city staff to looking at the different ordinances and the policies that are in place. We'd be happy that if this was sent to committee. But I would say this is not a simple, there are a number of ordinances, at least 2 or 3, that this affects, so we need to look at all of them. One of our ordinances state that if the plantings are taken out, they need to be put back equal or as better. And I know Mr. Jansen's proposed language would say that the residents would be responsible for that. But we'd need to clear up items like that and discuss the reasons for these ordinances to begin with. Sending it to committee, I think that's a good place for it to go so we can have some detailed discussion.
Yeah, Councilman Stuchel.
Go ahead.
I was just, I guess my question and concern with this had more to do with flowers, small plants than, I know that we have right-of-way plantings that are allowed specifically by ordinance in Chapter 14, and I know that we've got nursery specifications and conditions, but I don't see anything where, small flowers, tulips, irises, things of that nature are even mentioned in here once. That's, it's amazing to me that, what do we got here? 14, 15 pages talking about trees and, and I think that if our,
One page.
yeah, exactly. Or, I think if our residents want to plant tulips or whatever else, a small plant like a hosta, or if you think it'll survive the deer, yeah. Then,
Mayor, if I may,
Yes,
there
sir.
are, when I speak about things that to consider, one of the reasons why we do have permits for these plantings, particularly when we get to trees or bushes, the right of way is used specifically for, utilities, whether it's overhead electrical or we have fiber optic throughout the city. Part of the permit process is for the homeowner to check to make sure that there is not something there. Because quite simply, if someone were, like for an example, fiber isn't buried very deeply, it's fairly shallow. If a resident were to dig through that, you could cost thousands of dollars worth of damage to a fiber optic network and cost to that resident. So that's part of the process and what we're trying to avoid. Also looking at the different species to make sure that they're appropriate for the space.
sure.
So those are the type of things that we need to discuss.
So I would make a motion that we send this to the Public Services Committee.
Well, Councilman Stuchel had something
I
to
was
say.
just gonna pretty much echo, I think Matt's right, we want, neighbors to keep their neighborhood nice and pretty, but I think the council or the committee needs to look at this, that beauty's in the eye of the beholder. So what somebody thinks is beautiful, somebody else is gonna think, well, but, to your point, David, I think, utilities, right of way, safety, all those things gotta be considered, so it probably needs to be revamped, but, with a fine caution on both sides.
Absolutely. Councilman Morrissey?
This cannot be beyond the mind of man to settle, because these sidewalk strip plantings are very common across the country. They're all over the place, so if someone must have figured this out. They've been around for a long time.
My guess is they figured it out with less rules, not more rules.
Could
So
be.
that would be my prediction, at least. I'm not an expert on the matter, but
So,
yes, sir.
that is a motion.
Okay.
Second.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Sharp, seconded by Councilman Bell to send this to the Public Services Committee to look at. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Public Services, and thank you, Council. We will move on to new business, the fun stuff, adoption of the budget. Now, just for the public's sake, we have had 2 work sessions for the budget. We have held our public hearing for the budget, so all the information is out there and has been out there. And the budget is currently on the city's webpage for anybody that wants to look at it. So as we cruise through this, please don't think that we're being irresponsible with money. We've actually discussed this ad nauseum. So the final step in the budget process is the adoption of the attached budget resolution. This is the culmination. This is the culmination of, it's misspelled. I can read.
Yes, you're right.
This is the culmination of many months of work by staff and council to create the roadmap for the coming year. At the April 1st, 2019 council meeting, the proposed 2019-20 budget was presented. In the month of April, council as a whole met with staff to review the various departments' requests. A public hearing was conducted May 20th for members of the public to express their opinions regarding the proposed budget. Charter dictates that on or before the first Monday in the month of June, council shall by resolution make an appropriation for the next fiscal year to meet the expenses of the activities of the city and to levy taxes. Accordingly, the attached resolutions define the specific amounts of expenditures for each of the funds of the BPU and the city, as well as their capital budget. It also affirms a 2.75 wage increase for city non-union employees. There are 5 resolutions attached. The city general obligation requirements, including the library, the sinking fund, the fire department public safety millage, which was just voted on by the residents, budget resolution with sinking fund, and budget resolution without sinking fund. If the sinking fund is approved, the budget resolution with total revenue city at large of $11,751,730 should be passed. If the sinking fund is not approved, the budget resolution with the total revenues city at large of $11,361,984 should be passed. Recommendation, council adopt the attached resolutions to approve the budget as presented for the period of July 1st through June 30th, 2020 fiscal year, and levy the taxes.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I just had a question on the public safety millage. I don't know why it would be put to a vote if the public already passed it.
I don't understand that either. I'm sure that the city attorney can explain it, but I think we got our marching orders from the residents at this point, so.
Right, but the vote wasn't to decide if we should vote yes or not. The
It's
vote was
true.
to decide if it should be levied or not.
It's
So
true.
we shouldn't be able to vote on it, because if we're able to vote on it and magically everybody voted no, then that would be against the law. So we shouldn't be allowed a no vote for a resolution, for a tax that's already been levied via the ballot by the people.
Well, there's actually a legal distinction with the term levied. So they vote to authorize, the people vote to authorize you to levy the tax. So presumably your vote would be to levy the tax because you ask the voters for authority to do that. But that's the way that the charter provision that requires the authorization of the residents that it be put to a vote works. So they're authorizing you to levy it, but the actual formal levying of the tax is done by the city council. Presumably you would not disapprove that, but basically all they did is they authorized you to levy that.
So what if a council completely changed? Let's say that the vote on the tax was the same day as the vote for city council, and the makeup of the council completely changed in between, the time that they voted, and so the people would vote yes on it, and the council would vote no?
You can't. But my question is, to your point, if the if the city would have said, no, we don't want this levy, could we still pass it?
No, you
Okay.
wouldn't. It's an authorization. thing.
Right,
So
okay.
what they're doing is they're authorizing you to levy.
Okay. Good,
And
thank
that is that just because of the ballot language, or is that something that has to be done? I mean, could we
That's because of your charter requirements.
because of the charter requirements?
That
Okay.
they have to approve that.
Okay.
So you couldn't just levy it without their approval. You need their approval and authorization first, and then if you get it, you can levy it.
Great. Thank you, Tom.
Yep.
Okay.
So another hypothetical. For example, let's say they passed it like they did, and for some reason, Mr. Mackey fell into a windfall, and we just found $1 million. We could say, we don't need to tax him, we've got money. Would that be a valid?
As far as my understanding goes, yes, you could
Okay.
vote not to levy.
Right. So if we found money between then and now, we wouldn't have to tax the voters.
Yeah, I will say, as a lawyer, I don't like to answer hypothetical questions like that. I
I'll stop at
prefer to see
hypothetical.
what all the facts were, because there might be some issues that might impact that
Okay.
one way or the other.
Okay. All right, so we will move on to our resolutions. I don't find it necessary to read every one of these resolutions. Dave, sorry.
So the first resolution is for the general obligation budget. So that would be the largest, and that's the one that includes the city general fund and the library and part of the street funds. And that would be your first resolution in your packet. That states for the general expenses, we're levying $1,625,623.81, which is about 12.4337 mils. The street mills or millage, or not millage, levy would be
The second one.
the second item, which is $325,132.61, or 2.4868 mils. And then the library levy would be $130,050.43, which is 0.9947 mils.
And then down at the bottom, we'll only pass one of these resolutions with or without the sinking fund, according to how we vote on the sinking fund.
Correct. This resolution would need to be adopted either way.
Yes. Okay, so let's do it this way. I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution for the first item, millage levy for fiscal year 2020.
So moved. Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Bell, seconded by Councilman Sharp. May I please have a roll call vote? City Clerk Price.
Sure. Councilperson Stuchel,
Yes.
Ziser,
Yes.
Mayor Stockford,
Yes.
Councilperson Bell,
Yes.
Briner,
Yes.
Morrissey,
Yes.
and Sharp.
Yes.
7-0 approved. That's resolution 3376.
Okay, thank you, Katie. We will move on to the second item, the resolution to levy the 3 mills for the sinking fund for fiscal year 2020. I would entertain, Councilman Bell, sorry.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Everybody knows my arguments on this, who have been paying attention for any number of time. This is a new tax since I've been elected, and I promised when I was elected to not vote on new taxes, so that will explain my vote today. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
I know that puts us in a funny spot with that public safety millage, doesn't it?
Public safety millage went to the people.
I know.
I
I'm
was going
just
to say the
making
same
a smart
thing.
alecky remark.
Yeah, at least that one.
Did you have a comment to make, City Manager?
Yes, I just wanted to make clear to those who haven't been involved in the city for a little bit that this is specifically for street road repair and reconstruction, that this money has been identified for. It was recommended to the city council through the Fair Committee, which was created to kind of come up with ideas to raise revenue for road and street repair. And so this was their suggestion, and I think this would be the third year of that. It generates, as it states here, about $389,000 annually that we're using to put into the road projects. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. City Manager. Councilman Sharp?
And as I've been approached by many times while we're going out door to door, I will be voting for this because I want to see these streets done and fixed. And we are doing it currently, even though there's one just around the block for me. It's taken forever, but it will be done. And that's why I'm going to support this, because that was the main thing people told us, fix these streets. And that's why I support this. I don't like having my taxes go up. I don't like the fire millage going up. But these are things that need to be done, and we have to pay for it.
Councilman Bell?
Sorry, since there was challenge and we have some new people here, which is great. Welcome. My original point was that we could pay for the road improvements without this, so that's part of my vote as well. Thanks.
Any more discussion? I'd entertain a motion to pass the sinking fund levy for fiscal year 2020.
So moved. Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Sharp. May I please have a roll call vote? City Clerk Price.
Councilperson Zeiser,
No.
Mayor Stockford,
No.
Councilperson Bell,
No.
Briner,
Yes.
Councilperson Morrissey,
Yes.
Sharp,
Yes.
and Stuchel.
Yes.
We have 4 to 3. Motion passes.
Thank you, City Clerk Price.
Resolution 3377.
Thank you. We will move on to the next resolution, the Fire Department Public Safety Millage, which, as was discussed further earlier, this is what the residents of Hillsdale just voted on in May. Would entertain a motion to approve the Fire Department Public Safety Millage.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Sharp, seconded by Councilman Morrissey to approve the Fire Department Public Safety Millage. May I please have a roll call vote, City Clerk?
Mayor Stockford,
Yes.
Councilperson Bell,
Yes.
Briner,
Yes.
Morrissey,
Yes.
Sharp,
Yes.
Councilperson Stuchel,
Yes.
and Zeiser.
Yes.
7-0 approved, and that's 3378.
Thank you, City Clerk. Now, with all of the millages levied, we will vote on budget adoption for fiscal year 2020 with the sinking fund. Would entertain a motion to adopt the budget for fiscal year 2020, which also includes the sinking fund.
So moved.
Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Bell, seconded by Councilman Zeiser. May I please have a roll call vote, City Clerk?
Councilperson Bell,
Yes.
Briner,
Yes.
Morrissey,
Yes.
Sharp,
Yes.
Stuchel,
Yes.
Councilperson Zeiser,
Yes.
and Mayor Stockford.
Yes.
That's 7-0 approved, 3379.
Thank you, Katie, and thanks for all your work, city staff, on this budget, and thank you for all your work, council, on this budget. We are operating for another year, so
Not bankrupt.
nope, not bankrupt, not this
The
year.
lights are still on.
Okay, we will move into item B in new business, 2019 Hillsdale Drinking Water Video Contest winners. Hillsdale Board of Public Utilities works with the Michigan Rural Water Association to educate the public in ways to keep our drinking water clean. Each year, the Wellhead Protection Committee chooses a different way to achieve this goal. This year, the committee approached Mindy Eggleston's video class of Hillsdale High School and asked them to create educational videos. The class was told that the top 2 videos would receive $300 in prize money, and the videos would be shown on the big screen at the local cinema during the preview period. Alan, would you like to announce the winning videos, and I will give them their money? Prize money?
You guys come up. So group one, just a little bit more information. So during the next 3 months at the cinema out here on the north side of town, during the preview period before the movies, the 2 videos that these students made will be shown during that preview period. So you'll get to see their work on the big screen. So group one was Abigail Baker, Hannah Lee, Gabby Gates, and Lydia Lee.
Okay, good job, girls.
And Vanessa, group number 2 was Vanessa Brown, Kendra Truax, is that right? And Tori Lucas. So congratulations and thank you. Lindsay Everett.
Now, as I call out your names, you guys raise your hands so I know.
So you don't get the wrong check.
Yes. Abigail Baker. Thank you. Gabrielle Gates. Thank you, Gabrielle. Great job. Hannah Lee. Thank you, Hannah. Very good. Vanessa Brown. Great job, Vanessa. Congratulations. Kendra Truax. Good job, Kendra. Tori Lucas. Great job, Tori. And you must be Lydia.
Yeah.
Great job, Lydia. Lydia Lee.
I assume we include extra for them having to sit through all of this, right?
They earned it.
Learning experience.
Yeah, I don't want to be on city government.
Yeah.
I would entertain a motion to call the bank and cancel all those checks before those girls get a chance.
Wait till they open and find out the really electric bills at the BPU.
I'm just taking taxes to the max.
All right, we will move into item C, parcel division 3980 West Carlton Road. Alan? Never mind. In compliance with HMC Section 1882 and MIPA 288 of 1967, parcel divisions must be reviewed by planning and a recommendation made to council for final determination. At the May regular meeting, the Planning Commission reviewed the submitted applications for parcel divisions. 3980 West Carlton Road, parcel division. The owner of the property located at 3980 West Carlton is asking to divide the existing 3.4 acre parcel into 2 parcels of 1.4 acres and 2 acres. The recommendation from the city assessor is that the 2 acre parcel would have to be deeded to the owner of the adjacent property or require an easement for access, as there would be no developed road frontage and would therefore create a landlocked parcel. It is the recommendation of city staff and the planning commission that council approve the submitted request for parcel divisions. Any discussion, guys? Councilman Bell.
This says the recommendation from the city assessor, but the law says the recommendation must be made by the planning commission.
We'll get to the bottom of this. Dave?
So
Oh.
the minutes from the planning commission were included in your packet, or were supposed to be, stating that the assessor had made the request to the planning commission, and planning commission has made their recommendation to you.
Okay, so it's just a matter of.
So
changing that
it was a matter of semantics within
Okay.
the memo. My apology. It is though a request by planning and by the assessor that particular split be made with those recommendations.
Requirements?
Those requirements.
Right, okay.
Just because just so that we don't have a landlocked parcel.
Do we know if the owner is,
It is our understanding that there is already an agreement between the 2 property owners. However, if that agreement were to fall through,
This would
then
formalize.
then the owner would have to create an easement
Okay.
in order to allow access to that property.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Alan? Thank you, Alan. I would entertain a motion to approve the submitted request for parcel division.
So moved. Or
Motion on the floor from Councilman Bell, seconded by Councilman Sharp. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And we'll move to the next parcel division, 48 McClellan Street and 67 College Street. In compliance, section 1882. Parcel divisions must be reviewed by Planning Commission, recommendation made to council. The owner of property located at 48 McClellan is asking to divide the property and deed the new parcel to the owner of 67 College. This would make the property at 67 College compliant with current zoning setback requirements. The remaining parcel at 48 McClellan would continue to be in compliance with zoning setback requirements. Once again, recommendation to city staff and Planning Commission to approve the submitted request.
So moved.
Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Bell, seconded by Councilman Sharp. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We will move to MCACA grant application for the Dawn Theater. Mr. Mackey?
Yes, this is a grant application, as you stated, Mayor, for $94,000 or thereabouts to assist Tifa in covering their portion of the work on the Dawn Theater. The grant requires that this board approve the application submittal. So we would ask that council approve submitting the grant application.
Any discussion, guys? Entertain a motion to,
Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
no, go ahead, Matt.
So what happens if we don't get this grant? And it seems like the other work is on its way to commencing pretty soon, and grants take a long time, as everyone here knows.
This grant actually, Councilman Bell, starts, I believe, October 1st, and it ends of October of next year. So this would help offset some of the cost, Tifa's share of the cost. So if we don't get the grant, the project is still going forward. This would just assist Tifa in not having to have an additional $100,000 of their own money
Okay.
into the project.
Are there strings, separate strings attached separately from the Council for Arts and Council Affairs?
There is not.
Okay. Thanks.
Any more questions for Mr. Mackey or comments? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to sign and submit the Michigan Council for Arts and Cultural Affairs grant for the Dawn Theater in the amount of $93,850.
So moved.
Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Stuchel, seconded by Councilman Sharp. May you please have a roll call vote, City Clerk?
Councilperson Briner?
Yes.
Morrissey?
Yes.
Sharp?
Yes.
Stuchel?
Yes.
Ziser?
Yes.
Mayor Stockford?
Yes.
And Councilperson Bell?
Yes.
7-0.
Thank you, Katie. We'll move into miscellaneous reports. We've got a reappointment to the BPU board of Mr. Bob Batt. Bob's put a lot of time on the BPU board. He does a great job. Is he our current president of the board?
He is not.
Okay, but he has served as the president of the board. Am I mistaken about that?
I don't know the answer to that. Chris, do you know? But he
Okay.
has been on the board.
He's been on the board a long time, so he does a great job. So I'm happy to see that he wants to be reappointed. So, anyways, despite it being a reappointment, his application is in the council packet. I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Bell to reappoint Mr. Bob Batt to the Board of Public Utilities. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We'll move into general public comment. During this time, the same rules apply. Please state your name and address. Limit your time to 5 minutes. Limit your trips to 1 to the podium. And please understand per our council rules that there will be no questions answered during this period. But now you can speak on anything you like. So the podium's now open.
I'm
Ruth Brown, 45 Apple Run. I want to tell you that I'm going to have a community conversation on June the 12th at 9 a.m. at Joey Beans. And the speaker is going to be Hillsdale City Treasurer Pete Merritt. So it's 9 a.m. on Wednesday, June 12th at Joey Beans. And I feel that I would like to shine a spotlight on some of our city employees that I feel are very knowledgeable, experienced, and doing a good job for the city. And I feel that Pete is one of those. And he's a little lesser known than some of our other employees. And I'd like to have our constituents and public be able to meet him and have him speak at that on June the 12th. Also, as I look at the city council, I'm disappointed that there aren't any females on the city council. I feel that there needs to be female representation on the city council. And with our census coming up next year in 2020, obviously the city has females, and it's not a totally representative council when it's all males or all females, when we have a mix in the city. And I feel that I'm always looking around at people that would make effective leaders in the city and in the county. And I particularly would hope that we can get some female leadership on the city council in the future. And finally, I want to just encourage you. I know how it feels to be on city council. I was on city council before for 4 years. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of responsibility. It takes time away from your family. And I just want to encourage you. I want to thank you for the good job that you're doing. You're doing a very good job for Hillsdale, and we've had a lot of improvements and a lot of things positively moving forward. And don't let a few people drag you down or make you discouraged or demoralized, because I think that overall it's positively moving forward, and you're doing a very, very good job. So please stay encouraged. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. And thanks for inviting City Treasurer to your next county community conversations. Pete's a stellar guy, so I encourage people to attend. Go ahead, Joe.
Hendy, 181 Rhea Street. I just wanted to say thank you for passing that sinking road fund. And one of the questions that I have is, and this kind of involves transparency, is I see the city has the distribution reports for the BPU and the city itself, but there's no you only show the expenditures. You don't show the revenue sources. The what do I want to say? Your revenue. I mean, on the Michigan website, you can see how much the city has in revenue, but when you go to click on the items, it says no data. We don't get to see any of the revenue side. We get to see your expenditures, but we don't get to see your accounts receivable. I think that the city should be more transparent and be able to show us what the city is taking in as well as putting out. And then something else was Mr. Jensen and Mr. McLean were talking about codes. Our codes are designed to keep everything the same, and that's just not happening here in Hillsdale. For number one, I can point out several signs in the city which are in violation of our codes. So we either need to go through that and update it, or we need to make them follow the laws. And I've personally wrote emails, and I mean, it's not hard to figure out what signs are illegal. And there's quite a few of them around town. So I think that, if we're gonna impose rules and ordinances on people, they should all be the same. We shouldn't be biased. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Good evening. My name is Sue Reed, and I reside at 93 North Norwood. I very much appreciate your positive comments earlier about the beautification of the city and how important it is to keep the city looking nice. I have a neighbor at 86 North Norwood that I have tried to be very pleasant about, but there are constantly codes being violated by this neighbor. I'm not understanding how there was a new approach made to a driveway and a sidewalk was put in and then taken out and then put back in again. There are just a lot of things happening at this neighbor's house that don't make any sense. I live across the street and down a little bit, and I can see him welding after 11 o'clock at night. Very, very bright lights coming out of there. There's just junk everywhere. And I would really appreciate it. I know the code enforcement officer, I know you don't have enough time to get to everything, and I do understand not having enough people, but this blight is just getting worse and worse. And I would really appreciate it if we could have somebody looking at it. At that point, I will also say I did call the city assessor's office and was treated very well and made a complaint about him selling dirt in bags on the public property, and that was removed within 24 hours, so I very much appreciate that. You are looking out, but there's just so much more going on there, and I really wish that we could send somebody over there and maybe look at that a little closer. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue.
Linda Latimer, 90 North Norwood, and I am the next door neighbor at 286 North Norwood. It's nothing but a collection of junk in the back. Several ordinances I question. There are vehicles without proper registration, insurance, that are in the yard. A French fry truck, several boats, and I was encouraged to actually take photos and bring them. I have enough for 9 if you'd like to see them. The first few speak to the general collection of vehicles. There is the second one that actually has the back of a vehicle without a plate on it that's stored back there. As the direct next door neighbor, I look out every single day and I see this. I don't even want to sit on my deck because it's gotten well above and beyond pushing the limit. I am more than willing to have someone come and go through my yard if they'd like to take a look, because I know just driving by, you really can't see the full scope of what's going on back there. I also see the welding. I've heard the noise 11, 12 o'clock at night. I also have seen the neighbor light a bonfire in the backyard between 2 trees around this collection of junk in this big barn that has flammable whatever in it. It's to the point where it's dangerous. I know probably 911 is a good number to use when that's happening. The next time I see one, I plan to do that, because I'm seeing a collection of stuff to have the next bonfire accumulating. My last concern, which I also have a question or two about it, is I know ordinance allows within the city limit for a resident to have chickens, a certain amount without a permit, but if it goes over that, I understand they have to have a permit. My real question is, and I've heard discrepancies in this, is there a rooster allowed or not? There is a rooster there as well. And the last picture, if you choose to look at these, shows the chicken coop, which is right up against our fence. The barn and our fence is where they have constructed the chicken coop. I would appreciate it if people could look at this and maybe do something to help change what used to be a very quiet and lovely neighborhood. And I again would like to thank people for pushing forward to make the city beautiful too.
Leave your pictures with Katie, please.
More than happy to.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you very much.
Podium's still open.
I am Patricia Lambright, and I live at 89 North Norwood. My complaint, and I agree with the last two speakers of 86 North Norwood, we are in the process of finishing up building our garage. My husband has built and bought building permits for everything we ever done to our house and the garage. And I see no building permits at all. And this guy is building shacks all over. And I know that he's using more than the property that belongs to his house. And I know that this is an ongoing problem with him because I do know that he lived at the State Street trailer park, and his neighbor and him got in such a thing over property lines that a gun was involved. But anyway, I do agree with everything about 86 North Norwood. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. Any more public comment? Bob?
Good evening. My name's Robert Eichler, Scipio Township, and I had a couple of things I wanted to speak of, but this really enticed me about your blight. I think that's how you're saying it. In reference to what you're doing, we had that issue in Somerset, or in Scipio Township. What we had done is got away from government. You people are here to ask them. We took it on our own. Now, I'm talking about, and I don't know if Tom over here could help you out with it or not, but you know, following a little bit more of the Constitution is what I'm referring to. There's different tort laws, Michigan constitutional laws, and ours is to use the neighbors adjoining the property or anyone else along that area, take them to court. You take him to court. Keep the government from getting any closer to us. That's the reference that we're asking for. We've done it, we applied it, and it worked. We're having a few more issues right now that's come up, but we kind of formed a citizens committee. And a citizens committee was to help and go over to the properties and try to help them out with what we can, you know, remove for them, try to help organize. There's people who are called hoarders, and there's problems with that too. I'm not saying, you know, you can't offend people just because, you know, what if he puts up a 20-foot fence and you can't see in? Just because they have an ordinance, are you going to then come in and tell them, hey, he's still got stuff back there? You can't see it. But the reference I'm asking for you to do is don't infringe upon the neighbor. Take them to court. They're infringing upon you on your constitutional right, so you infringe on theirs. They've taken away their right. Use yours. The next is to the chief. Thanks for the open door. Had a chance to speak with him, and congrats on this millage that, you know, definitely went through. I would like to say to Ruth back here, I get a chance to talk with her, and I hope that other people will attend. She has that great engagement of coming out and having people there, you know, as guest speakers, and you can just, you know, go to town asking all kinds of questions. So, other than that, thank you very much.
Thanks, Bob.
Ted Jansen, I'd like to thank the council for moving forward on the plant ordinance, and hopefully the residents will choose wisely so their flora won't become food for the fauna. But also at the Airport Advisory Committee meeting we had Saturday, Mr. Mackey may or may not wish to speak of the wheeling and dealing he's been doing to get us funding for a new terminal. And I think it's rather extraordinary that it could happen without having to go to the public, but he may wish and may not. Also, we talked about the Patriot Day celebration and about whether or not to get the C-47 back, and the community felt that it's kind of been there a few times. People would not be interested, and I talked to Ginger today, and she contacted the Yankee Air Museum, and there's a possibility we'll get a B-29, and I volunteered to raise the funds for it if it's not too expensive, so that'd be rather exciting to have it if it happens. I'd just like to thank the council again for their support, Mr. Sharp, Mayor, Mr. Bell, and Mr. Morrissey enjoys my flowers as he walks by, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Ted.
Penny Swan, Ward 4. I was over to the property on Norwood. Actually, I was over to Linda Latamy's and took pictures, and I have a lot more pictures on an email. If anybody's interested, you can let me know.
Thank you, Penny.
Jack McLean, 1445 South Bun. About the plants in between the sidewalk and the street, I think, again, everybody should be treated the same. And I'm going to bring this up again. There's a sign at 42 Union that's between the sidewalk and the street. And I don't understand it. It's in the right of way. Nothing's ever been done about it. I'm not sure why. One time it was said in the council meeting that they were going to etch in their front door their street address, which I don't think that's happened yet either. But my other question about 42 Union is, and I've brought this up many times also, the Planning Commission said they had to put up a privacy fence. That's what it went through. You guys approved it. They've never done that. And the reasoning is because the neighbor doesn't want the privacy fence, which I guess I don't quite understand that, because no matter what you guys do or rule, I guess if the neighbor doesn't want it, then your ruling doesn't really mean a whole lot. I don't understand why. And I know they could put up a privacy fence, leave the fence there, it's there, but I don't understand how they're getting around the Planning Commission and the council's ruling on putting up a privacy fence. I know they have to go back if they don't want to put one up because they got government money, but it looks to me like it's just going to be water over the dam and nobody's ever going to do anything about it because it's just going to be forgotten. And I just don't think that's right. I mean, like Joe said, everyone has to be treated the same. It can't be just because you're from there, you get treated different. So, also I think on the land division thing, and I guess I'm not sure how your applications work, but they have to put down a legal description of the properties. And if that landlocked piece of line or land, the county will not approve that land split because of that landlocked piece of land, if that's how it goes. And I know if any land division is done, the checklist kind of says, does the legal description make it right? And according to what you guys are saying, it doesn't, because the legal description is showing the landlocked, unless the sky falls and he sells it to somebody else, which that could be forever. So I just think that that's how it should be. But that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
Dennis Wayne Scott, 34 Garden Street. I want to go along with Bob, what he said. You know, a lot of times we don't want to get the government involved in any more than what we have to. But at the same time, I want to applaud these ladies here for coming to City Council, because one of the things is we elected you to be our representatives. And if we don't have the knowledge and know-how of going about going through a process of getting things taken care of with our neighbors, you know, we don't want a fight where then we have to get the police involved. We just want to be able to do things right. And if you don't know how to do something, you want to take somebody to court, then contact somebody that knows a little bit about how the court system works and how things go on. But at the same time, I like to see the people here getting more involved with our council, getting in here to let them know, because your eyes can only go so far, and because of your eyes, some have blinders on, some don't, some because of their work and things that goes on. But at the same time, we need to rely on the people that we voted for to represent us to go out there. And these young ladies here, I guess I can call them young ladies, I don't think they're older than me. You know, they come in here with stuff on their mind and something on their heart that they turn around and they say, I need help. Now, the next thing it's doing, they came to you for help, and I'd like to see who's going to get up and help. I don't know who your representatives are for your ward, but it's on the computer now, and now we got all the local phone numbers on there. It's on there now that you can call them, because that's what they're being paid for, and that's what we voted for them, is to represent us, because they are our representatives. And I think that the ones that we have setting up here are doing a good job. I think they really are. And we need to use them and utilize them, because just like we would a rake or anything else, they are a tool. They work for us. And because they work for us, we need to take, you know, if you got a nail to drive, pick up the hammer and use it. And, you know, that's where we need to realize, and I applaud you for coming, or anybody else. And I thank the council for their job and what they're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
Mike Prince, over at 1 Heathcliff. I did want to, first of all, tell the councilmen, and maybe down the road council ladies as well, that I appreciate you guys. I appreciate the fact that there were 2 or 3 of you at the airport committee last Saturday. That builds confidence. It lets me know that it's not just the advisory committee, but that they have your support. And one of the main things that you said was, you know, if you're going to be on that committee, you ought to show up, you know, for other things than just to be part of the committee. You have certainly shown that, and Dennis had spoke a little bit to that, but I see you out there. I see folks like you. I see folks like Brian out there working his heart out on the roads, and I tell you what, it's great to be part of Hillsdale. It's great to see how you operate and how you bring closure. This thing with Mr. King, he and I have communicated on Facebook and had some fun at poking along that he's a king, but I'm a prince. And we'd go back and forth, and how you resolve that. And the very fact that, from my point of view, not only how you resolved it, but how you still welcome him to be part of the community. That's a very wonderful thing that you guys have done. And yes, it opens doors for the community to understand that we're about working together and loving the place where God has put us. So thank you to you folks for supporting the advisory committee. I just showed up. I tell you what, you show up at a meeting, you become somebody. Now I'm secretary over there. I don't know how that worked, but I tell you what, I want to represent you, and I will be part of that group that not just attends a group, because you folks have shown me how, and I appreciate every one of you.
Thank you, Pastor. Any more public comment? Seeing none, we will close the podium, move into the city manager's report. Mr. Mackey?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll try to keep this brief. As has come out through a number of comments, just in talking about helping the residents. Now, I would say that as you bring these items forward and discuss these topics like neighbors and those type things, inevitably there are ordinances and codes that we have to follow. I know Mr. Beaker struggles with this quite a bit, as you know, this 42 Union question on the sign keeps coming up, and there's answers for those questions. So if the questions are asked why we can or cannot do something, we'll be happy to share that information with you. But we try to treat everyone fairly and everyone with respect. I think my staff and you know, our directors here will talk to all residents and anyone that comes to their door to talk about their issue. Sometimes we can address it and help, and sometimes, unfortunately, our hands are tied and we can't. But the key is that we will try to help everyone. I think Ted can attest to this. Joe can attest to this. Dennis and others, Jack. I talk to everyone that comes in my office if I'm not preoccupied, and we try to come up with an answer or address the issues that have been brought up. So we will look into your situation there on Norwood for sure, and I know we have, because I've already spoke about the driveway with DPS and others. That being said, as Ted mentioned the airport, we did have an airport advisory meeting this Saturday. I would like to report that I thought it was a very constructive meeting, given that we've had some times in the past few meetings that it's been a little tense there. But I think this meeting, the mayor showed up, Bruce is on the committee, Ray showed up on behalf of the Exchange Club. We had a very productive dialogue. Also, just a report on our continued positive things of the airport. During college commencements, we sold over 8,000 gallons of jet fuel in 1 week, which is, you know, by far a record for the airport. And I would say we're probably 40 to 50,000 gallons for the year. I don't have the exact number off my head, but things are really looking positive there. As Ted had indicated, we are, you know, as part of our capital improvement plan there, probably our next big project after the fuel farm is getting that terminal relocated to the new apron. There are some options out there. We met this past week with the USDA. See, the airport is funded for capital improvement projects from money from the FAA. We get about $150,000 a year, and we can save those monies and put them towards a project. Where the USDA will actually provide rural communities loans and utilize those funds for repayment of their loan. So being creative, we're looking at whether or not the USDA could participate in the loan, and we can use the FAA funds to repay that loan, which are granted to the airport annually. So we're looking at different things, and we do have the air show coming up. As Ted said, he's helping the airport manager and working on that. Pastor Prince, I know. So we've got that coming up that hopefully will be another good year. And again, just want to reiterate, if there's ever an issue with the residents and they have a question, please feel free to email me or call me or stop by. We'll be happy to talk with you or the other department heads. I know the chief and Chris at the BPU and Jake, we're happy to answer questions and try to help everyone. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Mackey? Thanks, Mr. Mackey. And I can attest that the property on Norwood Street that you're talking to has been on our radar today. I went by there myself and did have a discussion with Mr. Mackey about it. So things are happening.
Can I just ask if anybody's actually talked to the resident who lives there?
I can't say that I have.
This is city manager.
Well, I'll ask Jake to come up because he can address the driveway. Because they actually, you know, you have to get a permit and Jake's department actually did that and had them tear out that concrete.
And then,
So-
maybe before you start, just a question we can think about. Are we actually telling people to take pictures? Because that could be a safety issue of if, I hope we're not. Somebody had reported that they were encouraged to take pictures. So, I just know there's some people in town who, if you're taking a picture of their property, they're gonna come out swinging or something,
Sure,
you know?
sure.
So,
And I was talking with somebody earlier today, and I said that the city won't do that. Because we don't know if somebody's vehicle behind their house is registered or not, because we can't just walk onto their property.
Right.
And we're definitely not gonna go back there and take pictures on somebody's property.
Right.
So,
just as a city, I don't know if we should be encouraging people to take pictures, so they'll worry about safety problems.
I don't think any representative of the city encouraged the pictures. But
I'll keep it fairly brief, but this dates back, I think, into last summer or last fall. Started out as a small sidewalk replacement, which really it met ADA standards, but was a bit unsightly, which then turned into another which was permitted, turned into another permit application for a drive approach. The time frame expired. We had to go through our process of non-compliance, sending the certified letters, and we've done that process. We've been through that process 2 or 3 times to get to the next step, to get the drive approach in, and then the sidewalk had to be replaced again as part of the drive approach. So we've worked very, very diligently and put a lot of effort into getting that drive approach in, helping that resident get that put in. I think maybe finances became an issue at some point in time, which caused these lengthy delays and permits to expire and reissuance and notices being sent. We've sent a lot of notices, but we've worked with them as best we can to try to get a product that meets city requirements, usable, and is on his property entirely. There was a little bit of a question, I think, about whether or not the whole driveway was on his property, but again, the right-of-way is a city property. So that property line divides the 2 adjacent homeowners. Once we get to the right-of-way, it becomes the city. And it's a very common practice for flares to overlap. Many times, 2 driveways very close, oftentimes will not even have the flare in between. They'll be conjoined. So that's all well within our permitting process and acceptable and approved. So we've worked with this gentleman quite extensively. And the right-of-way side, my department hasn't done anything outside of that. We also notified assessing code enforcement about some things being sold in the terrace. And I don't know if we were first or if the neighbor was first, I'm not sure which, but again, that was addressed within 24 hours. So I think from my department and what I can see and the other city staff, we're doing everything, maybe not everything we can, but we're doing a lot to try to keep that straightened up.
thanks, Jake. Bruce had a question?
It's mine and Bill's ward. We will get involved. I was not aware of this. I have not been aware of this. I've been always aware of Ripon Street, 1 street over. Now I will be coming over and paying you ladies a visit, and I will make sure we get an answer for you, because Mr. Mackey knows I will drive him crazy asking him what's going on, what's going on. We will find out what's going on. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. It sounds like it's almost like Back to the Future with a Weldon at night and stuff. I don't know. But we will look into it. And with Ruth Brown's comment, at one time, City Council did have 3 females on here as council representatives, plus a city manager that was a female.
4. When I was elected, we had 4 female council members.
So if they choose not to run, there's not much we can do. But that's the way it is. But there was female representation on this council. So if they choose not to run, what are you going to do? So I just want to answer that, Ruth. There has been women on this council, and they've done a good job.
Ruth knows. She was on council when
Yeah.
I got elected. She was one of the ladies.
Used to sit right next to me.
Councilman Bell.
Just to Bruce's point too, I think that to say that men can't represent women and women on the same side of the coin can't represent men is kind of silly. We all have mothers or wives or daughters or sisters, and women all have fathers and brothers, and so, I mean, we're all human beings. The point of government is to protect the rights equally of all human beings, so we can all imagine if we were in situations, that's why we have reason. So I would just caution trying to push out quotas there, but to Greg's point, or maybe it was Bruce, if women would run, then there's a chance of more women, so. But I don't think that, we should be out there publicly saying that women can only represent women and men can only represent men, because that doesn't make any sense, so, thanks.
Thank you, Councilman Bell. So technically, we're still in city manager report.
Oh,
so
sorry.
if nobody
Yeah,
had
we
no,
already-
no,
That's all
actually,
Dave's comments.
actually
Yeah.
we tend to do this every meeting, so we'll move. If nobody has any questions for Dave, we'll move from the city manager's report into council comment.
That was it for me.
Anybody got anything interesting?
one.
I know Councilman Stuchel has something.
I just, just in celebration of our city's 150 year, this Friday, there will be an unveiling out of Bobby's for Mama Bear and 2 baby cubs. There's going to be a meet and greet process that starts at 5:30. The unveiling ceremonies will start at 6. J.J. Hodshire will be the MC of the event. We have some people from the city that will be there. We have Jake that's going to be at the podium, and Michelle and Mayor. We're also going to have Congressman Wahlberg there as well. But there was a lot of good work between the city, between businesses, and between private donors to make this all happen. There is a plaque that's going to be put up a little later, but that's being donated by the Hillsdale Hospital. The Rotary Club was a big donor. The foundations and both Hillsdale County National Bank were big supporters. But also we had Scrivens, who donated a lot of concrete, and Al Clenning and Kevin and Janice Shannon are doing the excavating to make that happen. So those are funds that we didn't have to raise. So people donated their time and their materials and stuff. Also want to thank Rough Draft and Marty Hubbard, because she donated a studio space. And so those are major costs when you really add them up. So there was a lot of good work between this city and between business and private donors to make this happen. So this Friday, it's open to the public, and we encourage everybody to come out.
That's awesome to see that happen. Now,
Do we have what?
Sandy Beach.
Sandy Beach. Just before you get to the beach. Just before you get to the beach.
Do we know how the weather's looking, Councilman Stuchel?
It's going to be perfect.
All right. All right. I'm going to hold you to that.
It's free to the public, right? They're not charging admission right now at the beach, are they?
Well, I mean, not for this. It'll be.
Well, you never
You
know.
walk down the trail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You will not be charged.
That's right. Just sneak in through the trail.
Very
We don't charge. We charge for parking, not admission. So, right? Any more council comment? Councilman Briner.
Just a couple plugs here. The Everyday Hero celebration is June 15th, so we won't have another meeting before then. So I just wanted to put a little plug in for them. There's going to be a dunk tank, a couple tents set up, and this is with fire department, military, doctors, nurses, police department. For the kids, I know they're giving away some prizes too, I think. So bring them on out. It should be a good time. It's right from Bacon to Waldron Street, so they'll have that shut down. And it should be, it's a first time event, so we'll see how it goes, and hopefully we can continue it every year. And then the other thing
What time is that?
I was trying to
roughly?
look for a time. I can't quote a time, but
Evening.
Probably mid or around
Midday?
noon. I actually, you know what? I can quote a time because it's after the bank closes. They
Okay.
gave us enough time to operate in the morning on Saturday and then close, so it might be like 1 to 6 or something like that, maybe. So, but don't quote me on a time. It's afternoons.
I'll look it up.
The other thing is, I hesitated on the 3 mil. I was very on the borderline of it as our assessing department continues to assess properties, and as values go up, I will probably look at voting no for that if we continue to ask for it. So maybe some other alternatives would be to put it on a ballot and let the people vote instead of having council vote on it. It's just my perspective on things. I know we're doing good things with the money. We're putting it into the roads. But I feel like with our budget increasing, we need to be finding funds and cutting from other areas to get this money instead of continuing to have council vote on it every year, or go to the people and ask for the 3 mills. So just wanted to put my 2 cents on that, so everybody knows where I sit and why it took me a minute to answer, so.
Thank you,
So-
Councilman Briner. I think that's a really good idea, actually, because now that council has passed it by themselves for a few years, now we can show people, we can say this is what's been done with the money, and then do like we did with the public safety millage and ask their permission to tax them. So, any more council comment? Councilman Zeiser?
It's 2 to 5 p.m. on the 15th, the Everyday Heroes.
And I'm to understand that politicians aren't on that list, as I heard police, military.
Nor should they be.
Nope.
We could have a volunteer.
Should be in the dunk tank, though.
There you go.
I got volunteered by everybody in the meeting today, and I was kind of like, I was thinking maybe the mayor.
No.
In a Santa suit.
But if Danielle Brock asked, I don't see you saying no, so.
That's true.
We'll see. But I think it's supposed to be Everyday Heroes, so maybe Chief Hepner, I know he's hiding back there, might be a potential. Something came up. Something came up. Transporting somebody, right? But no, it's for a good cause. So if you do get asked to be in the dunk tank, it's just water. It won't kill you.
Oh yeah, that's great. It's a great thing.
And
It's
the kids will
exciting.
enjoy it. How many people can say I dunked the mayor in the water?
Our own BPU's water too, so it's nice
Yeah.
and clean.
It's the good stuff.
Multi-level
City water.
marketing synergy.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, Mr. Mayor, that
Yes, sir.
explaining my hesitation on the 1 mil vote was that it had nothing to do with public safety, only that you had pointed out the awkward place of being put in of voting yes on a tax. But I do support what the people supported, and after the council voted for it, I did not campaign against it, and that's the reason I didn't vote against it either. So thank you.
Yeah, sure. Same here. So, any more council comment?
Motion to adjourn.
So moved. Seconded.
Motion on the floor for Councilman Briner, seconded by Councilman Bell to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This meeting's adjourned.